Okay, we're solving equations and we're looking at exercise 2D from your textbook. Now, I want to make sure that you're solving these equations correctly. We're just going to start off with an example. 3y minus 2 equals negative 13. Now, when we solve equations, girls, we're meant to be doing the same inverse operation, inverse meaning opposite operation, to both sides of the equation. So a few things you need to remember. Inverse operations, a few other rules. Numbers on their own belong together. Numbers on their own belong together. Where are some numbers on their own in that equation up there? Negative 2 and negative 13 are numbers on their own, go together. Any y's would go with other y's, for example. So the other thing is we're trying to get the y on its own. So this number on its own would move away to the other side. So girls, what's the opposite of minus 2? So what we're really doing is adding 2 to both sides, but I don't like to show that because it gets very messy. So if you add 2 and add 2, doesn't the minus 2 and the plus 2 cancel? But you don't have to, once you get to this level in year 9, we'll just say 3y opposite of minus 2 is, we'll just take it to the other side and go plus 2. But what we're really doing is going plus 2, and the minus 2 plus 2 cancel. But instead of writing that all out, because it gets so messy, we'll just pick it up and take it to the other side. Opposite of take away 2 is add 2. And now 3y is negative 11 plus 2 is, negative 13 plus 2 is negative 11. Now we've got 3 times y is negative 11. That's 3 times y. What's the opposite of? Look, I think sometimes the best thing from this step is just to go divide by 3, and cancel those 3's out if you want, or you don't like that. All right, or this is 3 times y, opposite of, or y times 3, opposite of times 3 is divide by 3. Look, a lot of people, let me tell you why I want to go divide by 3, because there are a lot of kids that will multiply by 3 on the other side. So, what you've got to think of it, 3y, 3 over 3 cancel. So the opposite of that 3 would be to go over 3, and do that over 3 in your head, and knowing that the 3's cancel, you'd be left with y equals negative 11 on 3. Let's try another one. Another one. 2a plus a half equals a quarter. Now I know some of you won't like the look of that. Girls, a half and a quarter are numbers that you can just add or subtract quite easily. So girls, what am I going to do with the quarter? What's the opposite of plus a half, sorry? Girls, half and a quarter are just numbers because there's no pronumerals next to it. So, well, be careful. What am I going to do with the plus a half? Opposite, minus a half. What's a quarter minus a half? Think. Girls, what's a half minus a quarter? A half minus a quarter. All right, but I'm doing a quarter. Just think a quarter of a pizza, and I'm trying to take half of it off you. Half of an actual pizza. Can I do it? You're going to go into the negatives, girls. See how one's plus and the other one's minus? Just watch what I'm going to do here. Over here. Have a look. We're going to grow your brain by thinking, girls. I'm going to go 3 and 5. Watching. 3 minus 5. What is it? How do you know it's negative 2? Do you sit there, start with 3 and count back 5? Or do you say 5 and 3, their difference is 2, but I've got more negatives than positives?
No, I
all right, so just one sec. What you need to do, when I see this, I say, yeah, I can start counting on my fingers, but the idea is not to count on your fingers. 3 minus 5, I know I'm going into the negatives. The difference between 5 and 3 is 2, but I've got more minuses than pluses. That's why it's negative 2. If I go 7 minus 20, there is no one here that's going to start on 7 and count back 20. You know it's a negative. So what you do, you go, the difference, see, one's a positive, one's a negative. So the difference between 20 and 7 is 13, but I'm going to end up at minus 13 because I know I'm going below 0. So one's a positive, one's a negative. The difference between quarter and a half is a quarter, but I'm going below 0. A quarter of a pizza minus a half a pizza, you're going to go into the negatives. Negative a quarter. Okay, now, girls, how do I solve this? What is happening with that 2 and that a? What is the symbol? There's a time. So it's 2 times a. But what we're really saying is what's happening to the a here? It's a times 2. What's the opposite of times 2? Divide by 2. Or do you girls go divide by girls, do you know what I'm doing? Or do you just put the 2 down the bottom? Well, that's great. So girls, this is a times 2. Opposite of timesing by 2 is dividing by 2. Girls, when you've got fractions and whole numbers, how am I dividing by 2? Change the divide to 8 times. Any sort of division involving fractions, whether the first number is a fraction or the second, you've got to change the divide to a times and flip. How do you flip 2? Because 2 is really 2 over 1. So what have we got, girls? Negative 1/8. Or you're trying to divide a quarter into halves. See my quarter? I'm dividing it in 2. You end up with an 1/8. Do you see that? A quarter divided by 2. Let me tell you, if I gave you a pizza and it was a quarter and I divided your piece by 2, you'd know you were getting 1/8. But when you see it mathematically, people freak out. Sometimes you've got to think common sense. Another question, x divided by 2 minus 3 equals negative 7. Girls, numbers on their own belong together. Girls, what do I do? And you're trying to get everything away from the x. What happens with this minus 3? Plus. Do not even think of touching that 2. Numbers on their own belong together first. That's the first rule. All right, this is x divided by 2 minus 3. The other thing you can do when you've got the pronumeral only on one side is you read it and you go x divided by 2 minus 3. What was the last thing I said? Minus 3. So the opposite is plus. But girls, if you think numbers on their own, they're very lonely and they go together. So what's the opposite of minus 3? Plus. So I've got x over 2 equals negative 4. X divide by 2. What's the opposite of divide by 2? So girls, this is what you do. When you're trying to undo an operation, you start with the x, and what's happening to it? X divide by 2. Opposite of divide is times. All right, I need to do another type. Girls, are we ready? I'm doing question 4, I think, 4G. Okay, ladies, with this type. No numbers on their own belong together, that's fine. We're going to do this 2 ways. We're going to do it the way I don't want to do it first, and then we're going to do the way I want to do it. So, you know, numbers on their own belong together. You'd have to move that 5 if that was the case. Is this a plus 5 or a minus 5? So look, it is a positive 5. I know you're saying, but it's, see, because that's 5 minus 8x. So that's a positive 5. So when it goes to the other side, it's a minus. But I still have the minus 8x here is 2 minus 5. I would not do it this way myself. I'm not going to do it this way. Just wait. I don't want to do it this way. So you're picking up this 5 because it's a positive. It goes to the other side, it's minus 5. So I'm left with minus 8x equals what? Now, that means x times negative 8. What's the opposite of timesing by negative 8? Dividing by negative 8. Girls, it's what's the opposite of multiplying. Not what's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. Just because something's a negative, you're going to go and change all the rules? So if I had 8 times x is negative 3, you're going to say, I'm going to divide by negative 8. No, you're not. Well, you're just dividing by the 8 because you're undoing the times. Why do you want to divide by positive 8? It's x times negative 8. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. Not dividing by some other number, dividing by what you've got, which is negative 8. So it's x is negative 3 divided by negative 8, which is, girls, a negative 3/8. Right. We can avoid all that unnecessary drama on the left by saying, I really don't like working with negatives, especially with pronumerals. I don't want to do that. If I just pick this minus 8x up and take it to the other side, it's a positive. So I'm going to keep, you know what I want to do? I want to take the 8x over, and I'd like to bring this 2 over this side. Yes, we do want to get numbers on one side and pronumerals on the other, but we don't want to do it. Why does the pronumeral have to go on the left? It doesn't have to go on the left. Pronumerals don't have to go on the left, especially if they're negative. If you've got a negative pronumeral on its own on the left, take it to the other side. You're going to make your life much easier. So girls, numbers on their own do go together. I'm going to keep the 5 on the left. I want to move the 2 to the left. Is this a plus 2 or a minus 2? Plus. So when I take it over, it's a minus. Girls, this minus 8x on the left, if it's a minus, opposite of minus is plus 8x. So what I've done is I've picked up the minus 8x, I've taken it over. I've picked up the plus 2 and I've taken it over. It's now a minus 2. So you've got to look at the sign in front of it. So girls, what's 5 minus 2? 3, 8x. Right. That is 8 times x or x times 8. Opposite of timesing by 8 is? What's the opposite of timesing by 8? Girls, it's the same answer without the 2 mistakes that a lot of people will probably make. But we're going to practice doing this uncomfortable way anyway. Again, onto the left. See the minus 7x? Why would you leave it there? If you take it to the other side, all your problems are gone. Minus 7x picks up and goes to the other side. It's a... So girls, what I'm doing here is just opposite of take away 7x is add 7x. So 7x on the other side, that's fine. We're going to do it 2 ways. The 4's going to stay here. I took that over. What happens with the 23? Yeah, I know I've got a negative, but you're going to have a negative somewhere. Now, the thing is, 4 take away 23 is negative 19. So girls, I've got x times 7. Opposite of timesing by 7 is dividing by 7, not negative 7. It doesn't matter that there's a negative here. You're just undoing times 7. Opposite of times 7, divide by 7. Right. For the I don't want to move to the other side people. And this time, just move the number. 23. Is this a plus or a minus 4? So, other side it's a minus 4. I'm just picking it up and taking it over. What's left here when I do that? Negative 7. What's 23 take away 4? Equals negative 7. What do I divide by? That is x. The opposite of timesing by negative 7 is dividing by negative 7. Girls, that is x times negative 7. How do I get rid of that? See, girls, you know what? I was trying to show you before. Girls, I'm going to write it again. Watch this. The power of not talking. Do you see what I've just done? You know that something over itself, divided by itself, cancels out to 1. If I just divided by 7, I'd have negative 7 divided by 7 is negative 1. So girls, that is x times -7. Just tell me the opposite of times. That's all you've got to do. It's divide. Instead of timesing by that -7, I divide by that -7. I don't divide by something else. Girls, if you had 7x is 14, are you going to divide by -7 or +7? If you've got 7x is 14, are you going to divide by -7 or +7? All right, that's fine. If you've got -7x is +14, are you going to divide by -7 or +7? Negative. Girls, it's x times -7, opposite of times. Just do the opposite of the operation, not the opposite of the number. I know, all right, I'm confused between plus and minus and positive and negative. So, if I want to take, for example, this 4 to the other side, this 4 is not attached. I know you think this 4 is attached to the 7x with a minus, but if I write just over here, girls, 4 minus 7x is the same as -7x plus 4. Do you agree or not?
Yes.
The 4 is like plus 4. They're the same. They mean exactly the same thing. That's plus. So girls, if I've just got this 4 minus 7x, that's a plus 4, a positive 4. So opposite of plus 4. So I'm doing the opposite of adding. I'm subtracting. Girls, if I divide here by +7 down here, what do you get? If you want to divide by +7, what do you get? You get 2. Does that work? Does -7 times 2 equal +14? If you want to divide just by 7, because a lot of people said, Miss, divide by 7. Just do the opposite of the symbol. Opposite of multiplying by -7 is dividing by -7. Now it works because -7 times -2 is +14. Okay, girls. 3 times x divided by 4. What do I undo?
4 times.
Good. 3x divide by 4. Opposite of dividing by 4 is timesing by 4. What's a half of 4? That's when you use your common sense. A half of 4 is 2. X, 3 times x, but we like to start with the x. X times 3, opposite of timesing by 3 is dividing by 3. All right, next one. Be careful. What's the rule about the numbers on their own? What's the rule about numbers on their own? Belong together. So I get these two have to be together. 7 plus 2. Are we good with that or not? Shh. Girls, belong together. 3x divide by 4. Opposite of dividing by 4 is times 4. 3x is 36. Yes. 3 times x, or x times 3, opposite of times 3. Divide by 3. 12. Right. Got it? No. Numbers on their own belong together. And if you like to look ahead and see what you're going to be left with, yes, you can do that if you want. So minus 3f over 2, I wouldn't do it like this personally. What are you going to do with this 11? Is that a plus or a minus 11? You look at it in front. So when it goes to the other side, it's a minus. So minus 3f over 2, it doesn't matter where I put that minus, on the top, on the bottom, or in the middle. It's what? Now, girls, why don't we just swap sides and get rid of both these negatives? Do you see what I'm... Girls, so swap sides, but you actually don't have to write them on opposite sides. If I pick this up and take it over, or I can just multiply both sides by -1. So girls, I can pick that up, take it over, pick that up, take it over, and I get 9 equals 3f over 2. But girls, you don't have to write it like that. Just keep them where they were. and just take the negatives away from both. Girls, pick this up, plus 9. Pick up this whole thing. It's the positive of that. It's plus that. Now, times 2. 3f divide by 2. Now what do I do? Divide by, f is 6. Girls, I would have, see how I've written this? I would have kept the 3f over 2 on the left and the 9 on the right, but just make them both positive. All right, one more to question 8. 4 minus 2y over 6 equals k. Equals 3. 8k. Shh, 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 shh. Let's read it. 4 minus, or take away 2y, divide by 6. Girls, the denominator's got to go. I didn't get rid of the denominators in the others because